Okay, thank you. So this is the awareness topic, so I kind of want to share some experiences with you from the Kyle Police Department's perspective. So I'm going to speak really in relative terms of the last 2 weeks so that you know that we're listening, that you, the community, know that we are open and our hearts are open, our eyes are open, our ears are open so that we can listen and learn. For those of you who either attended the city council meeting Tuesday night or maybe you tuned in, I think I spoke for about nearly 2 hours in some ways on this topic on the police department, and I'm not going to do that tonight, but I want to just share some of what I think were maybe the most meaningful moments in Kyle PD in the last couple of weeks. So Pastor Curl is our police chaplain, and he comes in and he helps us with so many things. He helps us when we're struggling internally. He helps us share bad news with people when they've lost a loved one in an accident, and he goes with us to hold their hands and tell people that tragic news. He does a lot of things for us, and one of the most important things he's done for us is he's opened our eyes and our hearts, and he's shared a lot of good wisdom with us. But about a week ago, he brought in a group of young adults. Many may go to your church. I don't want to dare say all, but many may go to his church, and most, if not all, were Texas State students. These were young adults. They were African-American young adults from roughly 18 to 25, and I didn't ask them, so I hope I don't offend them, but that's roughly their age group. And they came into the police department, and we really didn't know what to expect on our end, but we knew we wanted to listen. We knew that we wanted to hear everything that they had to say. And this group of young adults came into the room, and I can only imagine how nervous they were when they came to the Kyle Police Department to sit in with a bunch of police officers and other police staff and talk to us. There really wasn't a platform, but it was a chance for us to get to know one another and share what was in our hearts. So these young adults began to go down the line and talk to us about things that are of concern to them. The relationship that they have with police officers, the treatment they receive from interactions with police officers, trust, fear, dislike, you name it. And we heard it all. So as they went down the line and they told us about their lives and shared moments in their past, things that they had experienced, I want to tell you what happened at Kyle PD that day. And again, I'm just talking about the last couple of weeks. I could probably give you some examples from months and years past, but these really hit home. So these young adults began to tell their stories, and we probably had about 30 police staff members in the room with them. We got everybody in there in the big room, and what I saw for the first time were young adults sharing experiences in a way with our staff that made our staff open their eyes in ways that I've never seen before. They heard the stories all the way to their heart, is what happened. When we heard from a young lady who talked to us about a traffic stop, and she told us about a police car pulling up behind her, and she automatically got nervous, which I bet everybody in the room gets a little nervous when the officers pull up behind you. Nobody wants a ticket. Nobody wants your insurance to go up, all the things. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, or I wonder if they're going to think I did. And she went on to describe how they drove a few blocks, and ultimately she was stopped by a police officer. Now, this young lady, she's probably around 20, 21 years old. And she talked about being pulled over by that police officer. And she begins to talk about, as the officer makes his approach to the car, she's nervous. And I'm thinking in the audience, I would be too. Nobody wants a ticket. Nobody wants insurance. Nobody wants to be in trouble. But what she told me, broke my heart. She told me that what she was afraid of was she was afraid that she was going to get killed on a traffic stop. She was so frightened by the mere fact that a police officer had pulled her over that her life experiences and things that she had been told and maybe taught to fear or told or witnessed on the news, we see that stuff. Her fear wasn't a ticket. It wasn't getting it in trouble when she got home because she got pulled over. Her fear was that she may get shot and killed by a police officer. And it absolutely broke my heart to hear that. Police officers do not get into this job to have people afraid of them. And I saw officers with 22 years experience, 10 years experience, sit there with their eyes wide open and their mouths just hanging because they couldn't believe what they were hearing. I did not think, I've been in this business 28 years. I have never thought that people would look at me because of the career that I have or color of my skin or whatever it may be, but my job, to think that I am there to kill them if I stop them on a traffic stop. Never crossed my mind. And that was one seed in that entire conversation that has stuck with me. There were many other stories, and I know I need to wrap up my part. I apologize. We continued. We had the rest of the meeting. We heard stories. We heard people speak from the heart. And if we didn't already, I promise you the people in that room began to hear and see in a way that they didn't see and hear before. And we actually invited that group and we got them in smaller groups. They came back Friday and we asked them more direct questions. They came back Monday and we asked them more direct questions, meaning, how can we help? How can we make it better? How can we improve our relationships? How can we improve our interactions with the community as a whole? What are the things that we can do to make sure that you don't fear us? No one fears us. We don't want them to fear us. We want them to see us as helpers. Yes, we are enforcers, but I certainly don't want anybody that gets pulled over on a traffic stop to think for one instant that we're there to cause them harm. So in the following days, we've had a lot of internal discussion in the police department, and I assure you that our hearts and our eyes and our minds and our ears are open because we see you, we hear you, and if no other time before has proven it, what you are seeing in the last couple of weeks and what you will continue to see at the Kyle Police Department will prove it to you. So our awareness, we're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. Before I move to the next panelist, I have to ask this question. And, I listened to, it was very passionate and raw and real from your heart speech the other night and recapping that in a much greater length than you did now. And I know you kept it short for time. I have a question that I'll direct to the two officers. You said that, you had officers 22 years experience, 10 years experience, and hearing these things. How is it that these officers have been in law enforcement for that long? And as Pastor Curl spoke earlier about dual pandemics, and not have seen this or heard this cry or understood that pain that people in your community are having when they've been in law enforcement that long. Can you help us try to understand how that could happen?
I'll try. So the officer that has those 22 years of experience has been right here in Kyle that entire time. Long-time servant for this community. He is the type of officer that when he encounters people that are in struggles, he's the one that helps. And I'll give you two very, very brief stories about him. When he encountered a homeless couple that were living in their vehicle in the Target parking lot, he encountered them one night when he was out on patrol. He went over there to check on them, and he made his contact with them. And when he learned that these were people that needed help, they didn't need enforcement, they didn't need removal from the city, they didn't need jail. He's the guy that went and bought them food out of his own pocket. When he encountered a homeless person, again, that was in the general area, that was walking from one town to the next, that didn't have shoes on his feet, he's the guy that went and bought shoes for that person. And he didn't come back to the station and champion his efforts. He didn't brag on his good deeds. His co-workers found out about it when they encountered those people later, and they told him what that officer had done for them later because they were so appreciative. He's the officer, and I'm speaking specifically about this one since we talked about him. He's the guy that would come in this room and help every one of you tonight with whatever your need was until he collapsed. And he's probably never had a negative experience personally for somebody to say, I need you to listen to me because of what you just did to me, because he treats them respectfully from the beginning. And he probably just never had an environment, an open discussion where somebody shared something with him, because he's the guy that when he came around, his actions, his treatment towards them, his professionalism, his compassion already showed them that he cared, and they probably didn't feel the need to convince him of the injustices that have been done for decades. They felt that he already understands, that he appreciates people. And I think that's probably why that officer's eyes were so open on that particular day, because I think he treats everybody equally and fairly, and he gets it. And that's just my perception. I didn't ask him for that follow-up. That's just me, because I know the heart this officer has. He's the one that when somebody broke down on the interstate, they were traveling from out of town, they were pulling one of those U-Haul trailers behind their vehicle. He took them, he ended up giving them a ride to a hotel, helped them get a room for the night. He went back to their trailer that they had to leave on the side of the road, and he went and bought a lock for it, put the lock on it, went back to the hotel, drops the keys off for him and said, "Hey, I secured your trailer and I locked it up." And he did all those things out of his compassion and empathy for others and out of his own pocket and whatnot. That's my answer to why I think that one person, his eyes were open.